Hello, welcome to Tara's Mental Calibration, and I'm Tara. So, before I get started, I want to go ahead and give my disclaimer that I am not a medical professional. I am not a psychiatrist, I am not a psychologist, I am not a counselor. I am only speaking of my own experience with myself. Whatever you hear, please do not make my story fit yours. And I highly recommend therapy if you're going through any kind of trauma or if you've been through any kind of trauma. I totally recommend getting help as you work through things. The other disclaimer is there could be trigger statements, stories that I talk about. So there could be some triggering things. So this is the trigger warning. So today I am going to talk about something that has been extremely difficult in my life. It's a memory that I never shake. I'm going to talk about the story. I'm going to talk about what I learned from it. And I'm going to talk about how I try to alchemize the bad into good. Because out of all the trauma that I've been through, I really do try to find the good from the lesson. Not everybody can look at things that way. It's how I choose to look at it because it makes my world less dark. It's not that I'm trying to sugarcoat anything, and it's not that I am trying to make something look better than what it is, because it was horrible. But I choose to try to bend it into a different perspective so it doesn't feel so heavy on my soul. Everybody has a different way of doing it. So there was a time that I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I could have been younger. I remember the house that we lived in, and my mom and dad had just had an argument. And my dad was the type of person who would try to commit suicide like on a weekly basis. And I became so desensitized to the word suicide and the meaning of it as an adult. As a child, it was very scary. So when my mom and dad would get into arguments, my dad would try to control her by threatening taking his own life. And my mom would get tired of it to where she would avoid it. She wouldn't deal with it. She didn't want to deal with it. And so there were quite a few times that she would just throw me in and say, go take care of your dad. And sometimes my dad would have a gun by him. Sometimes he would be trying to hang himself. Sometimes he would try to throw himself on railroad tracks. Or he would tell me how he was going to walk in the middle of the highway and let a car hit him. Or he would cause an accident, or, like he would tell me what he was going to do. And I'm a very, very young child, scared to death. that something was going to happen to my dad unless I stopped him. So on this particular day, my mom and dad had an argument, and my dad was threatening to take his life, and my mom encouraged me to go and talk to my dad and to talk him down. And so I went in there and I sat down next to him, and in between us was a gun. I don't know if it was loaded. I was too young where I didn't pick it up, I didn't check. And he asked me what I was going to do to talk him down. And he told me that it better be good, because if I failed, then he was going to kill me and then himself. And we would both be without our lives. So I felt the tremendous pressure to encourage him. I had to come up with things to say in order to make him see that his life was worth living. I remember telling him about his job, telling him how good he was at his job. And even though I was lying at the time, I told him how great he was as a father and how much he would be missed. And at the time, that was a lie too, because he caused so much trauma that I just wanted to relax as a kid. And I remember that day how successful I felt when we walked out of the room together, still alive. And there was a sense of empowerment in that as a child, that I accomplished something huge. I saved somebody's life. And I carried that feeling on through adulthood. And I became better at it more and more every time it happened. It started getting to the point where my mom would just send me in there all the time, go look for your dad, knowing what he was going to be doing, knowing that I was going to talk him down, knowing that she would not have to deal with it. So I got this savior complex to where I felt like I had to help everybody. At a very young age, I felt like I had to help everybody. And if I didn't, they were going to die. Because this was the programming that took place every time I tried to save my dad. And what I learned from that has been in a toxic way is that even as an adult, even away from the trauma, I have done the same things. I can feel when a person needs a crutch. And I become that crutch, even if they don't ask me to. And that has led to burnout in my life, in the relationships that I've been in. And when I say relationships, I'm not just talking about intimate relationships, I'm talking about platonic relationships, any relationship with my family. I put myself in this position to be on a pedestal that I was the person who could help everybody. And this is where I take self accountability. But at the same time, this is what I was trained to do. So I didn't realize that what I was doing was not just enabling people, but I was putting myself in a position willingly, most of the time without being asked to be put in this position. So once I realized what I was doing, and it took therapy for me to realize what I was doing, I started making changes to stop. And I feel like what I went through with my dad, all of that pressure, the way that it benefited me is that I learned how to talk in a caring and a compassionate way and understand a different person's point of view or another person's point of view without agreeing with it. Did I agree that my dad should try to commit suicide every other day? Absolutely not. But did I understand it? Yes, because he told me about his sadness. He told me about how frustrated he was with life, how he felt like he was more valuable dead than alive because he had a life insurance policy out on himself. And so the way he looked at it was he could take himself out and we would be covered. And I understood that I learned how to see the world through another person's lens and have compassion in a way. Don't get me wrong, I got angry as an adult when I realized that this was really messed up to put a child through. But as an adult, of releasing the pain and the burden of that trauma, I've had to soften the blow of the lessons that I learned on how I learned them and try to find the good in what I learned. That's one of the things that benefited me. The other part is I can walk into a room and I can read it. Like I got so good at it that when I was a child, I could walk into the room and feel my dad's energy without him even looking at me, without him even saying a word. I could tell. And I could hurry up and try to put the fire out before it even started. It was a lot of pressure and it was a lot of energy to do that. But now, as an adult, I listen to my intuition like no other. So when I walk into a room and I can feel the energy around me, I listen to it. I listen to my intuition. If anything feels off, I am out and I won't even blink twice. I won't even say anything about it. I really try to alchemize the bad into good. And I've done that without focusing on the event, but I focus on the lesson from the event. Sometimes I have a very difficult time in doing that because the way that nobody wants to learn a lesson in a negative way. And I feel like the way I've learned a lot of my lessons in life is from a negative way. But if you peel back how you learn the lesson and you separate that from the lesson, then the lesson is, it can be a positive one. I've learned how to live life under pressure. And I've also learned how to appreciate relaxation. It did teach me what I did not want in my environment. It did end up teaching me what kind of people I wanted in my life. It even taught me what pathway I wanted to go down. Like, I'm really, really good at psychology because I've studied up on it so much for other people. But I could never be a psychologist because I've done it my whole life and I'm really burnt out on it. It's not even something I enjoy doing. It's just something I have a lot of knowledge about. And as an adult, I did lean towards people who needed saving, like my dad, people who reminded me of my father, because I felt like since I couldn't entirely fix him as a kid, if I just fixed one person, then that would give me the win that I fixed my dad in a way. Because even though I was there for my dad, he was never quite right. And because he was never quite right, I would blame myself for that. I took on his burdens. And I would do that with people in my life. And I had to get past, and I'm still currently trying to get past that if I'm not there, because people will manipulate. So if I'm not there for everybody every single second of the day, they're not going to die because I'm not there. They will figure it out. And that is so triggering and difficult for me to sit in. If somebody asks me for help, it doesn't matter if I'm tired. It doesn't matter if I have things going on. It doesn't matter what my focus is. It doesn't matter what my goal is. I will put that on hold to help somebody because I feel like that they need the help. They need my energy more than I do. And that's not true. That's not true. They can get help. They can be accountable. They can look at their stuff and say, you know what? I'm tired of being like this. I'm going to get help. I had to do that with myself. That's how I know people can do it. My dad never got help. There are people in my family that refuse to get help because they see it as being weak. They see me as being weak. I do have some family members who did try therapy and they're like, yep, nope, not for me, because it's hard to look at yourself. You know, what they say about, um, it's not about the pain that was caused, or it's not about the pain that was put on you. I know I am chopping this up. I'm messing this whole quote up, but it goes along the lines of, it's not about the pain that you feel, it's about what you do with it. It's not about the event that you went through. It's about what you do with it. How long do you let it linger? How much do you let it ruin your life? How much do you let it cloud you? What is going to be your threshold? What is going to be your rock bottom to make you say, you know what? I am tired of this crap. And I'm going to let myself be free. It's about freedom. It's not really about forgiving them. It's just about you letting it go so that way you can be free from the chains yourself and you can move forward. And I'm still in that, Trust me when I say I'm still in that transition right now of doing that. I'm still so fresh of starting that journey. And it's not easy because when you decide that you're going to let go, all of a sudden you can feel as if, well, if I'm not angry about it, who's going to be angry about it for me? It's not justifiable to let it go. And I'm trying to get to that point where it doesn't matter whether it's justifiable or not. It's not going to change what happened. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. My father has passed on. I can't press charges against him for anything. I can't hold him accountable. So this is where I have to just let go. And whatever your religious beliefs are, if you have religious beliefs, I have spiritual beliefs. I am not religious, but I do believe in karma. And I do believe that people reap what they sow. And I have to trust that it's going to be taken care of for me. And that's a hard thing to also let go of control of. So that is today's episode. If you have something to add to this, or if you have any insight for yourself, or if you want to talk about something similar that you went through, please feel free to drop an email. It is Tara's mental calibration at gmail.com. All one word, no spaces, no punctuation marks, no, nothing. Just all together. Tara's mental calibration at gmail.com. So I am sending you a bunch of love and light. I hope you tune in next week. Have a good one. Bye.